Look, everybody, it's Richard Underhill, current mayoral candidate, one of the founders of the Shuffle Demons, and Juno Award winner. Hi, Rich.
Hi, how's it going, Billy?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Good. And so tell us what you're up to.
Well, tonight I'm on my way to play with Tyler Urema at the Reservoir Lounge, which is a great bar on Church and Wellington downstairs. Used to be the old Café des Copains. And we're just across the street here at Say What, one of the best places to get beer in Toronto. And we picked up, I think it's called a 10 Point, which is a cask-conditioned ale. I lived in England for a year and a half in the 90s, early 90s, and I call it hand pull ale because you'd have to actually physically pull the beer up from the cask with pressure because it's not carbonated. It's only the natural carbonation. Oh. And my favorite sort of beer.
I'll drink to that. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Great stuff.
Yeah, no, tasty.
So, tell us about the history of the Demons quickly.
Sure. It started with me basically attending York University. And I'd been playing on the street a little bit back from my hometown, Salmon Arm, BC. When I go to Vancouver, there's one, this is going far back, but this is a really funny story. A buddy of mine and I were going to see Chick Corea. And I was 16 or something, and we had tickets. But there was this huge lineup that was forming, and I had my saxophone with me, and we concocted a plan where I wrote a little sign that said, "Help me get in to see Chick." And then I busked as the line went by and made about $50. If someone even offered us tickets, and I was like, we already got some, thanks. So that was kind of my start with busking. And I've always loved it. I've always loved the fact that you meet all kinds of people and that you're playing music for everyone. You know, it's not an exclusive thing where people have to buy tickets or like a certain kind of music or whatever. You're really reaching out to everyone and playing music and hopefully influencing them in some way. Maybe they'll check out jazz, maybe they'll check out your music. So I was a busker at heart. I came to Toronto to go to York University. And by chance, I met Mike Murley on the bus, and we became locker mates and then roommates because he had room in his crazy house on Roxton Road. And we never played together because he was just, a fantastically technically versed saxophonist, also melodic and musical and everything. And I was kind of this wild man busker guy from BC who liked free jazz. So we were kind of apart. One day the lights went out in the house, there was a power outage, and we started jamming, and it was a click, because these two things kind of really melded together well. So, and I'd been coming home with a sack of change on a Saturday night. And back in the days when this is pre-loony, so I would have a sack of change and some bills, and I'd count up my money, and it would be the same money that he made playing a 5-hour wedding gig. And he was like, "This is silly, I'm going to come out and try it one time." So out we went to Young and Bloor. We played for a couple of hours. We made $40. We had fun. So the next time we went out, his best friend Dave Parker and a good friend of ours, Stich Wynston, who was a drummer at York University, came out, and we were born. Someone asked who we were, and like on the second or third time, because we were having a gas at it. And I had this kind of wacky tune called the Shuffle Monster, which was a debut tune, first tune on our first album. And so I was like, Shuffle Demons. And away we went. So that is the really raw beginnings of it. We busked for that year. We started getting some gigs at the Horseshoe. No, wait, sorry. It was
Holiday.
The Brunswick House.
Oh.
Brunswick House first.
Yeah.
Derek Andrews got us to play the Brunswick House matinee. We played Earl's Tin Palace on Eglinton and sort of had a plus-minus of about -5 because we brought a bunch of people, but a bunch of people left because they were like, who the hell? It's a bit upscale for us, especially in the day. We were pretty, we were funky. In 1985, then, after doing that in the summer, between school year, we saved up some money, flew to Europe, and did a 3-month busking tour of Europe. And that was really a seminal moment for all of us. We were in our early 20s. We busked, we played some indoor gigs. We went to East Berlin and busked over there. And then, we weren't busking for money there because they made us change 20 German marks into 20 Ostmarks, East German marks. And that lasted, well, we had to give the rest of it away. We spent about $3 for the whole day, But that was cool because we met some people over there and really had a little tiny taste of what that was like. But anyway, we had this amazing tour, and when we came back, we got to the business of recording our first album, and then the rest is history from there.
History.
Yeah.
Awesome. And that's over 20 years ago.
30 this year. 84 is when we started. Yeah, this is kind of around when we started in September of 1984.
Jeez, the 20th anniversary seems like yesterday.
I know. It's just a few years ago we broke a world record for the most saxophone players playing a song.
Yeah.
And it's funny because without Dave Parker, it really wouldn't have been the same, because he was the hit writer, it turned out. And he wrote Spadina Bus mainly. I mean, we all added to it, of course, but he came in with the main thing. He wrote Out of My House Roach, collaborated on Cheese on Bread. He was one of the main guys in Spadina, in the Shuffle Demons' success. So he was one of the hit writers. I was sort of the promotions guy, figurehead, and the other guys are outstanding musicians, and it was an interesting sum of the parts kind of thing that really worked well.
Well, and now when you tour, it's more with Perry White and
George Kohler on bass, of course, and we've got Kelly Jefferson now, and we can get him because he's very busy, and he also teaches. Ryan Oliver is our go-to guy, or Sean Nyquist.
And Stich is still there.
Stich is still there. In fact, Stich, in about 2006, said, hey, man, I want to, I was like, okay, let's do the 20th anniversary, then, we'll take what we can get, but I'm not going to go out and beat the bushes. And he was like, man, I want to beat the bushes. So did he ever? I mean, we went to India in 2006 in January for a almost 2-week tour. Played Delhi and Calcutta and Goa and Mumbai. Then we went to China in May of that year and played Beijing and Shanghai and Changsha and a bunch of places, a 3-week tour. And then we did what was the other thing? Oh, we did a European tour that summer. So Stich really kicked in with a bang there and did a great job. And the two of us now share the management duties. He's really amazing at beating the bushes and finding things. I'm pretty good at helping to do the budgets on grants and that sort of thing, and put it together, and I'll get some of the closer things that just fall in my lap because of the various contacts that I have from the old days.
All right. So tell me about the Juno Award.
Well, that was fun. I decided at some point the Shuffle Demons were taking a hiatus, and it all kind of ended at some point when we'd been touring. I had booked a European tour after European tour. I think we did 15 European tours in about 3 years there in the 90s, early 90s. And it was great fun. It might have been maybe 5 years, I guess. About 3 a year, that's true. And, we did some amazing things. Like we played this is one of my favorite stories. We played the Wiedervereinigung-Nacht in Germany. So it was the coming together of the two Germanys. And when after the wall came down and all that stuff, and they sort of melded early, but this was the official coming together. So we played in this town called Hof, which was sort of on a point between East Germany, Czechoslovakia, and West Germany. And this is this town right there, this little border town. And we played in this really cool loft. And what was really interesting was the bands and how they sort of represented what was happening. There were the East Germans, and they started first, and they had this sort of thing set up. It was a wall with barbed wire, and then they had this beautiful woman doing nude poetry, and it was very interesting. No, but it was cool. It was like, what's going on? It was really avant-garde, right? They were doing this nude poetry, and there was fire, and so I didn't understand German well enough to really get it, but I think I kind of understood what they were saying. It was, this thing, and this is our rebirth with the fire, and the wall, and all that stuff. So that was really, avant-garde and interesting. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because when we went to East Germany that time in '85, we met up with a photographer, and he had enough change to buy one roll a month or something and get it developed, right? But some of his photos were really interesting. It's that thing where the scarcity made each photo a precious moment. So he worked on it, but it was also kind of avant-garde. So then the Czechs came up, and there were these wild, folky mountain men playing, with crazy beards, playing like a melodica with, it was an accordion with a blowpipe, so the guy was playing it like a piano. The guy honestly had a hockey stick guitar, like a guitar made out of a hockey stick, which certainly piqued our interest, being Canadian. And they were like, weird sort of Czech folk, odd rhythm, cool, and highly energetic stuff. And then the Shuffle Demons played, and we were whatever we were, which was also kind of weird and cool. So then it came time for the West German band to play. And they were a top 40 cover band, and I thought, oh my God, this is exactly what's happening. There's this, this thing where art and culture is sort of not commodified, not, in it's kind of it's rebellion still, because, especially because if it was free jazz, which was often played in the Eastern Bloc, that's something that, it could be quasi anti-government, but it's hard to tell because there was no lyrics, So there was this energy and this thing where music was rebellion, and now it's being siphoned into this thing where music is commodity, and that's what the Top 40 cover band was. So that was that's one of the nights I'll definitely remember. And we ended up, when those cover band was playing, we kind of shook our heads and went and jammed with the Czech guys in the back room playing Beatles tunes. We couldn't shake the commodity completely, but very interesting though. Very interesting. We went to Plauen in East Germany, once again just across the border, when it just opened up. And that was really cool. There were Trabis everywhere, of course, the old East German Trabant car. But the streetcars I found were so interesting because they were painted on the sides with art. There was, there was sort of looked like the Renoir one, and then there was the multicolored one, and there was the Dali one, and they were all painted up, and it was really cool because it was kind of, it was kind of a bleak gray town. But at least this was adding a spark. When we went back a couple of years later to play, they all had beer ads on them. So, say what you will, but it was, it was that outsider's perspective. I was answering a question here, but I forgot the actual question.
It was the Blue Lounge.
The Blue Lounge! That's about me. It's about me. It's not about the Demons. So, eventually the Demons got weary of touring, and I got out of debt from various Demons tours, and I decided to go out on my own, and I got a grant from Factor to make an album, and I'd been writing tunes that didn't get played by the Shuffle Demons, or some of them did, but not, didn't get on albums. So it was sort of a 10-year collection of tunes that I'd written, and I assembled an all-star cast of thousands with, some of the great players in town, Dave Restivo and Bob Bruff on tenor sax, one of my favorite guys, Artie Roth on bass, and George Kohler on bass, who was a holdover from the Shuffle Demon days, and Ted Warren, and put out an album that managed to win a Juno. So it was great. I was thrilled. I was in Ottawa to get the Juno, and the really funny thing is, I was playing with Blue Rodeo at the time as well. So we were in Ottawa that day to do a sound check for the Juno Awards the following day. So the Junos for the less mainstream acts are given out on Saturday, and then on Sunday is the big mainstream night with 10 or 11 awards. There's really 40 awards given overall. Luckily, the jazz one was presented first because the Blue Rodeo bus had left earlier in the day to play in Port Hope. So I rented a car, ran up, got my Juno, and then jumped in a car and drove for 4 hours and just made it on stage at the exact right time, which was awesome.
Wow.
And they announced that I just won a Juno, and they gave me like a little cup from a curling tournament as an award, and then it was great, and it was high, just feeling so good. And then we finished the gig, and I was like, oh crap. Now I have to drive back to Ottawa, like from 1 in the morning till 5 in the morning because Blue Rodeo was playing the next day. But anyway, it was a great time. It was a great weekend, and those guys were really supportive. And
so, what year was that?
That was 2003 when I won the Juno. The album came out end of 2002.
And you're still good friends with Jim Cuddy, obviously, from the James Gray Memorial the other night.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, Jim's great. I mean, we played hockey. It was fun. At that point, they'd contacted me because we'd been friends since the Shuffle Demon days, and the Demons horn section actually played at Massey Hall with them at some point, and like way back, and so he asked me to, would you put together a horn section? We want to do something different on the Palace of Gold album. So sure. So I put together a horn section with Bryden Baird and Chris Gale and Steve Donald, good friends, and an interesting mix of people who'd done a lot of it, that kind of playing before. And we toured for a couple of years, and what was really fun, we were touring with the Sadies at some point as the opening band, and we all loved hockey, and so we played a lot of hockey rinks, but there'd be boards on the ground, on the ice. But after the show, we would, as the crew was tearing it all down, we'd have our little post-show meal. It's still like 11:30 or something. We'd pull out the nets, and we bought a whole bunch of sticks, and we'd play road hockey on the rinks crosswise till like 1 in the morning, and then get on the bus all battered up from running around on these rings, and wake up the next day. It's like sleeping on the bus, and tired, and sort of ramp up to the gig, and then to the thing you were really looking forward to was that road hockey game. So it was a hoot.
Awesome. Well, okay, take a little sip. We're going to take a little break. Message from our sponsors. If you care to be a sponsor, just let me know, because I have none.
Damn, I wish I'd known before.
We'll be right back.